We're fast approaching the PS4's 5-year anniversary, and man has it been one hell of a generation. Though Sony might have limped out of the gate with some pretty unremarkable releases initially, now even if you stack the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch's catalogs atop one another, it wouldn't hold a candle to what you can play and only play on PS4. So just for fun and total seriousness, let's be honest, how about we rank every last one of them? I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is ranking every PS4 exclusive from worst to best. For the sake of time, I'm going to throw up numbers 20 to 15 on screen right now, and you can check out the full article on WhatCulture.com for the reasons why. The link's in the description, and yes, Infamous fans, you have been robbed, but no one said this was going to be easy. Number 15, Street Fighter V. It would take 2 years to get it right, abusing fans' trust in the brand by releasing a bare-bones package for full price, then drip-feeding characters and content, but 2018's arcade edition of Street Fighter V is the one to pick up. We already had an infectiously cool art style, brilliantly updated roster of fighters, and the game's new V-Trigger specials. But now there's a fleshed out roster, fun enough story mode, and an immaculately balanced online mode. There's a reason Capcom base entire fighting tournaments around Street Fighter, and 30 years on, its one-on-one precision combat, especially when sped up and made to look stunning on current hardware, makes it sublime to leap into. Number 14, Gravity Rush 2. Sometimes a game's defining trait is so well thought out and so immediately interactive and experimental, within seconds it's a true great. Gravity Rush might have slightly scuppered its chances by first appearing on the dreaded no-selling PS Vita, a system I'd actually heartily recommend, but once this sequel showed up, it received some well-earned retroactive love. Centered on character Kat and her ability to manipulate gravity's pull for only herself, it lets you reverse or aim polarity to fly around levels, fling any objects in the environment at enemies, or just stand upside down inside a building. Combat is snappy third-person fare, but with animated cutscenes and anime sensibility and that oh-so-punchy gameplay, Gravity Rush might be the shiniest hidden gem of them all. Number 13, Drive Club. Where GT Sport would receive multiple updates that never made it essential, Drive Club, even after one hell of a messed up launch where it disappeared off the PS Plus release schedule and then dropped in fragmented, retailer-confusing form, is the best driving game on PS4. Don't get me wrong, it literally killed Evolution to get there. The studio is now defunct after said terrible launch and the inability to create new projects because of the damage, but do yourself a favor and pick this up. Drive Club's physics model is exquisite. Barreling into corners, busting out handbrake turns, and then quick whipping yourself back out of a chicane is exhilarating. The game looks gorgeous too, hands down having the best weather effects in any game, period. Don't let this pass you by. Number 12, Detroit Become Human. Few things are as hilariously tone-deaf as a David Cage game. And once he turned his attention to sci-fi android futurescapes as an analog to real-world racial history, we all cringed into various geometric shapes. In execution, Cage does have some great ideas though. You'll play the whole game through the synthetic eyes of a RoboCop detective, increasingly sentient freedom fighter, and a carer turned foster mother. The beauty of which being that at times, you're making choices that benefit one character while damning the other. It's this dynamic that gives Detroit a sense of quality outside of the god-awfully playful way it approaches things like androids standing at the back of the bus, the Black Power fist representing android rights, or even Holocaust imagery being prevalent on their clothing. Production is aided by some of the best visuals in all of gaming, but I have to stress that your mileage may vary depending on how much Cage veers from emotional moment to careless implementation of iconography the next. Number 11, Neo. A lightning-fast update to the Soulsian formula, Neo comes complete with various weapon stances, a loot system tied to battling the ghosts of other players, and an absolutely gorgeous Far East art style. Its battles are tests of reflexes and studying enemy animations respectively, a real dance of death where you'll need to be on your game or get sent back to the last checkpoint. Thankfully, like From Software's masterpiece, the sense of reward from mastering your character and learning to survive against such harsh circumstances is a rush that few games ever pull off. I'm gonna say that Neo is every bit as playable and worthwhile as Dark Souls, providing Rach leaves this in the edit anyway. Number 10, Persona 5. A truly sublime JRPG, Persona 5 has more style than every other game put together. Seriously, the art and cutscene direction, even the menus are dripping with this comic book panel come to life style vibe, and it's a delight to drink in. Gameplay is JRPG combat perfected, combining quick access to enemy weakness specials, group finishes, and projectiles with ease, all the while layering on a hum-worthy soundtrack and beautiful visuals. The pros far outweigh any storytelling cons, and if you want a JRPG for the ages, it's right here. Number 9, The Last Guardian. Very few games have ever done animal AI well. but looking after, riding, and petting Trico, the Last Guardian's giant bird, dog, cat, Josh Brown-like concoction, eventually felt incredible. I say eventually because initially he's despondent, or he'll get confused if you say too many things at once. All of this pays off though when you finally realize the timing of everything and can start working as a team. Having Trico jump up to greet you, make the save during a fight, or carry you across a gaping chasm feels like every Iron Giant or the BFG style movie ever with you at the center. It's beautiful, and come the credits, you'll have gone on one of the most majestic and memorable journeys in PlayStation history. Number 8, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom. Ni no Kuni 2 centers on young King Evan after he's been booted out of his kingdom, leaving you to create somewhere for all colors and creeds to live, designing your own environment along the way. This through line of positivity transfers into beautifully responsive combat, sticking with the real-time trappings of the original, but giving you access to Higgledies, Pokemon-style characters that you can catch and perfect. The last piece of the puzzle is a quirky yet dependable group dynamic, something that even the mighty Octopath Traveler completely fell down on. Here it anchors Evan's efforts on the land and encourages you to indulge in side content. Put simply, Ni no Kuni 2 is just as necessary for JRPG fans as a hard drive is to the PS4. Number 7, Ratchet & Clank. Not only do Insomniac have a certain wall crawler higher up on this list, but Ratchet & Clank's remake should be considered gaming royalty. The animation, Hollywood quality. Platforming, tight as hell, with a hilariously enjoyable array of weapons to bust out if you just hold L2. Essentially, Ratchet on PS4 is all the bombs and bluster from the more shooter-focused installments brought back around to marry the series' original intentions. It's flawless from top to bottom, and you'll play the whole thing with a huge smile on your face. Number 6, Uncharted 4 A Thief's End and Lost Legacy. Yes, I'm combining these two together because they're both as awesome as each other. For Uncharted 4, it applied a humanity and weight to Nathan Drake that none of us knew we needed. By establishing some consequences and grounding him as a person, not just a highfalutin swashbuckling hero, it makes all those supremely over-the-top action set pieces even more enthralling. Not only that, but Uncharted 4's takeaway message about loving what you do for a living is paramount. Not to mention, the visuals are on another level entirely. Then there's Lost Legacy, which honestly upended all expectations to be one of the best in the series. Taking all the lessons learned from the numbered installments in terms of gameplay, puzzles, and combat, then twinning them with duo chemistry that's equally educational as it is humorous, Nadine and Chloe's adventure is the franchise perfected. Number 5, Marvel Spider-Man. Insomniac's work on the webhead cements them as some of the best developers on the planet. Combat is Arkham-inspired, but with expansive acrobatics, aerial moves, object interaction, and snappier stealth. Spidey's physics engine when you're out amongst New York is second to none. The feeling of thwipping between buildings or catching yourself after falling from 60-story buildings feeling like nothing else. Random crimes and side missions pepper the map, there are suits in here that'll make certain fans beam like children, and the story has a handful of gut punches and memorable moments that elevate all the surrounding elements tenfold. As a complete package, Insomniac Spider-Man is a must-play. Number 4, Until Dawn. The perfect marriage of cinematic visuals, ace voice acting, a branching story that for once actually does feel like it's responding to every choice you make, and a setup that's dripping in relentlessly fun teen horror, Until Dawn totally works as a party game or a solo fright fest. Taking place in the middle of the woods, because where else, a group of teens return to the site of where their friend perished 1 year prior. We, the audience, know that there's something going bump in the night, but there's far more to dissect, including cutaways to future therapy sessions where your own answers can affect elements of the story. When all's said and done, Until Dawn is an immaculate rollercoaster ride through a haunted house. Your decisions result in a ton of different endings, and you'll likely dive right back in just to see who else can make it out alive. Number 3, Bloodborne. Even the opening area of Bloodborne is a gauntlet designed to separate the devoted gamers from the casual drop-ins. A setup that sends many running in the opposite direction, but results in an action game knowing precisely who to cater for. In that vein, you've got unlockable transforming weapons all suited to different scenarios, a speedy retaliatory model that restores health if you have the stones to strike back. Dodging is sped up, levels snake and intertwine, bosses are visual delights and true tests of gamer metal. After the first Dark Souls, it's the best game FromSoft have ever made, and something anybody looking for an old school difficulty curve should leap straight into. Number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn. Talk about a breath of fresh air. This brand new IP from Guerrilla Games is practically the antithesis of Killzone in every way. Where we had first-person shooter combat, there's now third-person bow and gadget combat. Where the color palette was restricted to muted shades and dull characters, we have gorgeously imagined future cultures and robo-freaking dinosaurs. Just exploring the land makes you question everything about where the game is actually set, only for one of the best stories this generation to answer every last question in the best possible way. It's this level of writing that elevates Horizon alongside its addictive and rewarding open-world gameplay, but it can't take the top spot. Number 1, God of War. My number 1 had to be something that doesn't feel as though you could improve upon it in any way. Every second of God of War is not only a labor of love, seriously, check out our video on how Sony almost killed it, but a reapplication of gaming's best lessons rolled into one phenomenal package. You've got areas that retrospectively unlock with later game gear, a la any Metroidvania. Combat that will floor you with brutal impact and tactile depth straight out of Dark Souls. A character whose backstory once wrote the book on violent escapism, plus a jaw-droppingly impressive sense of scope. Combine everything with a script that deftly addresses how something like God of War 3 eventually confused wanton empowerment with nihilistic anarchism, and you have an intelligent, mature, and powerful game that perfectly represents how far PlayStation and its own fans have come.